All right, welcome into this episode of the Chiefs Zone Podcast. My name is Farzin Vasugian. We've got a big show for you tonight. Obviously, we are starting much earlier than usual. Of course, the breaking news today, the Kansas City Chiefs have traded Trent McDuffie. There's also another piece of Chiefs news that just came out within 30 minutes. They have made another transaction. This one is actually official. The Trent McDuffie trade will be official a week from today, but it is a very busy week, or a busy day, I should say, nonetheless, for the Kansas City Chiefs. It's actually a busy week for them as well, as they continue to be tied into some of the free agency rumors that are out there regarding the running back position. Obviously, one big running back that the Chiefs are tied into is Jordan Love, the running back from Notre Dame, but will he be available at number 9? I've been telling you guys for a while, if the Chiefs want to trade up, I mean, if they want Jeremiah Love, they're going to need to trade up. And that is going to be a very expensive move to try to acquire Jeremiah Love. Does the draft capital that the Chiefs got for him, does that lead to anything? Or do the Chiefs lean more on a free agent running back? They are currently tied into two names that they might go after in free agency. There's some positives and some negatives to take away from this Trent McDuffie trade, and we will get into it right away. Before we get into that, want to let you know this podcast is brought to you by SeatGeek. That is where I go to for all of my sports ticketing needs. NBA, NHL playoffs will be starting up very soon. We've got March Madness happening this month. And right before that, the Big 12 tournament right here in Kansas City. Royals baseball also gets underway officially later this month. You guys want to catch any of the action, go check out my friends over at SeatGeek. And if you're a new SeatGeek customer, use my promo code Farzine. That'll save you $20 off your first purchase from SeatGeek. Go to SeatGeek.com, get your tickets at checkout. New customers enter that promo code Farzine for $20 off your first order from SeatGeek. By the way, one other thing I will tease at the end of the podcast, we will move away from all the Chiefs talk, and we will have Andy Parks join us. Andy Parks, of course, as you all know, we will be at Planet Comic-Con Kansas City for the first ever Chiefs Zone Live. Get your tickets at planetcomiccon.com. Andy Parks will be there as well. Andy Parks wrote Extraction. If you have Netflix, surely you've seen it. He is a Kansas City Chiefs fan. As a matter of fact, he's actually a listener of the podcast. Did not know that. So we are going to have Andy Parks on at the end of the podcast. I will say this. We recorded this last night, so we're not going to get any Trent McDuffie conversations in that one. So we will play that at the end of the podcast nonetheless. And by the way, if you guys want to call in, the link to call in is right there in the chat. I will post it later on as we go on throughout tonight's podcast. But let's start off talking about this Trent McDuffie move. Let's go over the why. Actually, before I get into that, I've got to pat myself on the back here, and I got to do a little I told you so. Listen, I'm not afraid to make predictions on here. I'm not. And you guys love to push back for some reason. I told you guys the Chiefs were going to leave Arrowhead Stadium. That happened. You guys weren't happy when I said that they were going to do that, but it did happen. I told you guys that they were going to release Mike Dana, release Jawan Taylor. That news became official, by the way, today, within the last 30 minutes. I said they'd trade Trent McDuffie. All of those things happened. I said they'd bring back Eric Bieniemy. You guys said, no, that's not going to happen. Can we stop with the pushback here? This is like the nicest way I can say I told you so. So start listening to me a little bit. I would appreciate that. And stop doubting me. Anyway, let's get into this Trent McDuffie deal, because I know everyone's talking about this today. It is the biggest NFL story today. Why did this happen? Number one, Trent McDuffie is going to want north of $30 million. Sauce Gardner last offseason when he was with the Jets, he signed a 4-year deal and receiving on average $30.1 million per season. Derek Stingley Jr., right before him, 4 years, $30 million per year. So at the end of the day, this is a Chiefs team that didn't trade Trent McDuffie because they wanted to. This is something they had to do. They don't have the cap space for that. And I've told you guys this millions of times. You have the highest paid center, right guard, offensive guard for that matter, defensive tackle. You're paying a lot of money to Nick Bolton. You have the highest paid kicker. I know Harrison Butker is not making that much money, but when you have the highest paid center, guard, defensive tackle, and kicker in NFL history, that does add up. That does add up. And now the Chiefs find themselves in a spot where they're realizing they can't pay everyone. Now, yes, all of those positions I mentioned with Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, Harrison Butker, you're already paying a lot of money to Patrick Mahomes. If Travis Kelce comes back, he's probably going to want a lot of money as well. You're paying a lot of money to a lot of guys. So you're not going to be able to pay everyone. But I think the first major domino to fall that led to where we are right now with Trent McDuffie getting traded to the Rams was right before training camp. What happened? The Chiefs extended George Karlaftis, who was also a first-round draft pick from the same draft class as Trent McDuffie in 2022. And look, as much as I hate to say it, as great as that draft class was, those 2 first-round draft picks, which allowed you to be very flexible because of the Tyreek Hill trade. Yeah, they're teammates, but at the end of the day, these guys are also competing against each other. Because, listen, if a team is drafting really, really well, you have to know that at the end of the day, not everyone can get paid. And we've seen that many times. We saw it with the Tyreek Hill trade, which I alluded to a moment ago. We saw it with L'Jarius Sneed. We saw it with Joe Thuney. And now we're seeing it again with Trent McDuffie. I got all these comments. Oh, the salary cap is a myth. You can massage the salary. I don't even know what that means. You can massage the salary cap. What does that mean? Because I hear people say that a lot. The salary cap is not fake. It is absolutely real. I've told you guys this many times. And listen, the Chiefs have moved on from a lot of great players in the past, and they've still found a way to produce. Sure, this past season was not great at all. In fact, it was a failure, but that does not overshadow what the Chiefs accomplished the 7 years before that, reaching the AFC Championship game all 7 years, 5 Super Bowls, winning 3 of them, and Patrick Mahomes winning league MVP in 2 of them. It doesn't completely dismiss that. Now, I will say this, because, and Robert just said it in the chat, can't complain about the haul they got. The Chiefs got 4 draft picks. And Bill Williamson, who's a smart, great writer for ESPN, he actually predicted that the Chiefs would trade McDuffie and a 5th round pick to the Rams for their 29th overall pick. I was not a fan. Listen, McDuffie's a great player. I don't think, because I remember when the Chiefs traded Marcus Peters, they traded Marcus Peters and a 6th round pick for a 2nd round pick and a 4th round pick. The 2nd and the 4th were not from the same season. I think the 2nd round pick came later, but don't quote me on that. I don't remember that offhand. But I thought to myself, look, you can't be trading away a player or a draft pick along with this player. That's too much. Well, lo and behold, the Chiefs traded Trent McDuffie and nothing else. They got 4 draft picks in return. One of them being the 29th overall selection. Now, keep in mind, the Rams have 2 first-round draft picks. I think their earlier draft pick is 13th, 14th, 15th. Let me see if I can pull that up real quickly, actually. It is 13th. They got it from Atlanta. So they have that draft pick, which is, fine by them. They don't mind it. But not only did the Chiefs get the 29th pick, they have a 5th round pick, which is going to be around 168, 170, somewhere around there. We don't know the full draft order yet because we're waiting on the comp picks. And I'm going to get into that in a moment because that's important. And they're also going to get a 6th-round pick, which is going to be somewhere around 220, 215. Now, I just mentioned the compensatory picks. I've been telling guys all offseason that if you can trade Trent McDuffie, you should get some draft capital for him, which they did. Oh, by the way, they have a 3rd-rounder for next year, which is probably going to be a late 3rd-round pick. But I think you'll still take it nonetheless. On top of getting 4 draft picks, 3 of them this year, that put the Chiefs from 6 draft picks to 9 draft picks. This was much needed draft capital for the Chiefs, and we might not be done yet because let's not forget last offseason, Justin Reed signed with the Saints and Turk Wharton signed with the Panthers. The Chiefs might get 1, maybe 2 compensatory picks. So the Chiefs at the moment have 9, could have 11. If they don't do any more trades, they could have a maximum of 11 draft picks for this year. That would be monumental coming off a 6-11 season. And this does give the Chiefs a lot of flexibility in the first round of the draft, having 2 draft picks. And on top of that, the Chiefs have 4 picks in the top 75. They're picking 9th, 29th, which is the Rams pick, or originally the Rams pick, 40th and 74th. That is pretty big for Kansas City. And listen, I've said it all off season long. I do not want to see Trent McDuffie wear any other team's NFL jersey. But we know the Chiefs have not been able to keep everyone, and they're not afraid to send anyone within the conference. Now, obviously, the Rams are an NFC West team, so this is outside of the conference, which is a little bit of a positive here. You're not going to see McDuffie on a regular basis, but I won't dismiss the possibility that the Chiefs and the Rams see each other twice this year because they play each other in the regular season, once in LA, and I believe is the Super Bowl also in LA this year at SoFi. We might have 2, little reunions with McDuffie in SoFi. Who knows? But for the time being, the Chiefs send McDuffie to the NFC and they get 4 draft picks out of him. Look, I know there are some people who aren't happy about this. And I've read some of you guys' comments. I haven't read every comment. I know it's been crazy today. It's been a quiet, couple of weeks for the Kansas City Chiefs. Of course, we had the Mike Dana news. I think it was last week, Juwan Taylor earlier this week, but this one's pretty big. As far as I'm concerned, this is a good move for Kansas City. You can't keep everyone. I understand McDuffie is a fan favorite, and rightfully so, and he's a great player. But the Chiefs had to make this move. And look, I think there are less. I think there's less outrage because I remember when Joe Tooney got traded last year, which, by the way, I'm going to say right now, that does not look like a good move so far. I don't care how old Joe Tooney is. That dude kicks everybody's ass at the line of scrimmage. He just won Protector of the first ever Protector of the Year award. But when the trade at the time happened, Chiefs fans weren't really too upset about it because they understood it was somewhat expected. We knew not everyone was going to agree to restructure their deal. And these guys all want to make their money, understandably so. You work so hard to get to the NFL. It's not easy to get to the spot. You deserve every penny, nickel, and dime you can get out of an NFL team. McDuffie's about to get that himself. He's about to become possibly the highest paid cornerback in the NFL right now. But this is not going to mean anything if the Chiefs don't hit on this draft. The 2025 draft, that's kind of, we can't feel too good about that draft just yet. I like Noah Williams and what he's done. Omar Norman-Lott and Josh Simmons both suffered season-ending injuries. Josh Simmons missed a lot of time as well for personal reasons. Availability certainly a concern there. Hopefully he'll be more available this season. Ashton Gelati, who was a rotational guy, was awarded the Team Rookie of the Year award. And listen, I thought he's a solid piece, and I think he's going to get better. We'll see. I'd like for Noah Williams to get more playing time. Brashard Smith should have gotten more playing time. Now let's look at the 2024 NFL draft with Xavier Worthy, who played through injury this past season. Jaden Hicks, whose playing time was very odd, honestly, if we're being completely honest. And listen, let me just be clear. The jury's still out on the 2024 draft class, as well as the 2025 draft class. Kingsley Suamata-Ia, better as a guard than a tackle. Jared Wiley, how many catches has he had? 2? One of them was on 4th down this year. Hunter Nordzad, I think, is an underrated addition. I'd like to see him play a little more if he can get an opportunity. Kamal Haddon, CJ Hansen, not really much to say about those guys, but let's look at the 2023 draft class. Felix Anudike-Uzomah, massive bust. This guy was playing in the second half of preseason games with other 3rd and 4th stringers. Your first round draft pick should never be playing with those group of guys. He's a bust. Rashee Rice, I mean, we've been talking more about Rashee Rice off the field than on the field, and that's not good. Even if he balls out and has a great year, I don't see any possibility where the Chiefs decide to bring him back, given perhaps some lack of trust with his off the field activity. Wanye Morris, not a good offensive lineman, was bad in 2024 and dealt with injuries, the injury last year. Shamari Connor, I thought was actually good as a rookie, took a huge step back the last couple of years. BJ Thompson, no longer on the team, dealt with that health issue the year before. Keandre Coburn, the Chiefs gave up on him very early. Nick Jones, still on the team, but barely does anything. I mean, this has not been a good 3 years for your draft classes. They have not been very good at all. So this upcoming draft right here, it's got to deliver the 2026 NFL draft. You've got to hit on a majority of these draft picks. We know the Chiefs can find great players outside of the first round. They've done it many times. Brian Cook, I think, has been underrated. Leo Chenal, I think, certainly should have been drafted much sooner than 103, the 3rd round. Jalen Watson certainly should have been drafted way earlier than 7th. Isaiah Pacheco, I know the last 2 years maybe not so good, but the first 2 years with Pacheco, almost going undrafted. I mean, he really proved he should have been taken much sooner. Nick Bolton, Creed Humphrey were both 2nd round picks. Trey Smith, clearly not even close to a 6th round pick. L'Jarius Needle was a good 4th round pick. Unfortunately, he's been dealing with injuries this year, but you know, if health wasn't an issue, this guy certainly could have been a 1st round draft pick in a redo draft situation, which is obviously a hypothetical scenario. I mean, listen, Brett Veach has done a really good job of finding talent outside of the first round. And I mentioned the 2022 draft class. How many picks did they have that year? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They had 10 picks in that draft class. And that's a big reason for that was trading away Tyreek Hill and getting all of that draft capital. And they delivered big. They traded up to get Trent McDuffie. They traded up a 3rd round pick, and I can't remember what the other pick was. I think their own 1st round pick to move up to get him at 21. Then they got George Karlaftis at 30. And like I said, I mean, they got a lot of other great pieces there. Brian Cook, Leo Chenal, Pacheco, who was good for a couple of years. Jalen Watson, another underrated piece there. Josh Williams, who was better earlier on than later on. Brett Veach has got to have a very similar draft this year, because not only could that have a big impact as to whether or not the Chiefs are going to bounce back in 2026, I think that this draft class could also dictate how this team looks for the next 3 to 5 years. And if Josh Simmons can stay healthy, if Omar Norman Lott can stay healthy, if Ashton Gelati can develop, if Noel Williams can step up from the rookie season he just had, if Jeffrey Bossa can maybe live up to expectations, and look, he might get more playing time if Leo Chenal does not come back. Jalen Royals, there was some hype with him. Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Royals, those two built quite a connection with each other in training camp. Is there any way to carry that over to these regular season games? If Kingsley Suamataia can improve after proving that he's a much better guard than tackle. I mean, some of these draft picks, Jaden Hicks, who I'm big on. Xavier Worthy, if he can stay healthy. Like these, and I know this is a lot of ifs. And I told you guys before, I'm not a big fan of hypotheticals. But there is still, the jury's out on all these guys that I just named. If those guys can develop, and if Brett Veach hits on a majority of his draft picks for 2026, then this Trent McDuffie trade will 100% be worth it because it's going to put you back in the playoffs. And let's be honest, we know the Chiefs are a very dangerous team in the postseason. Remember 2023? That was the most vulnerable the Chiefs were with the drops and the offense just not being as good. And they found a way to win the Super Bowl that year. And a year later, I know they got their ass kicked by the Eagles in that Super Bowl, but the narrative was, well, they keep finding a way to squeeze through and win these close games that should not be close at all, and they still found a way to win the AFC Championship again 3 years in a row. No one else has been able to do it better than the Chiefs. They have a down year, one down year, and yet there are these insiders. Matt Miller of ESPN, he was on Dan Patrick's show and made a comment saying that there are a lot of NFL teams that are hoping Jeremiah Love doesn't go to Kansas City. So the Chiefs are coming off a 6-11 season. According to, Karen 696969 on X, she thinks that the Chiefs dynasty is dead. It's over. This is the start of a downfall. Yet you have NFL scouts, NFL general managers, people who actually are responsible for putting together NFL teams. They don't want Jeremiah Love to go to Kansas City. That is the thought process a lot of people have with Kansas City right now. Keith Casey on YouTube says training camp will hold a lot of competition positions. Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting training camp for sure. And look, we don't know if it's going to be 9 draft picks. Like I said, it could be 10 or 11 with these compensatory picks. Maybe they have what? Maybe even after these compensatory picks, maybe they do end up trading away a draft pick if they trade up somewhere in the draft. I don't know where exactly. And no, I'm not really suggesting trading up at the top 10 because that is going to be a very expensive move. I saw DraftKings put out a hypothetical trade, basically a trade proposal where the Chiefs trade away both of their first round picks as well as like another pick later on, where they trade with the Titans for their number 4 pick. I mean, we're playing fantasy football at this point. I can't say I would be opposed to that move because a report came out today from ESPN that the Tennessee Titans are very high on Jeremiah Love. Now, I understand the Titans have a lot of things to fix right now. Cam Ward, I mean, if you can give Cam Ward a big running back like Jeremiah Love, then I think that team will start to move in the right direction. Look, I don't mind Trent McDuffie getting traded. But if you're going to trade an all-pro like him, you got to hit on a majority of these draft picks. The Chiefs did not trade Tyreek Hill away without a backup plan. They had a plan set in place the entire time when they realized, okay, we're at a stalemate here. We can't come to an agreement. We're going to let you explore your options. We'll let you talk to teams, and we'll get the best out of you as far as draft compensation. They did that with Tyreek Hill. Now, the draft compensation you got from McDuffie, not as massive, but still pretty damn good for a quarterback. Oh, by the way, not just any cornerback. We're talking about a nickel cornerback, a slot cornerback. Listen, Trent McDuffie, I think the one knock on Trent McDuffie is he's not a good outside cornerback. He's far better inside than outside, which is fine if you play him to that position. And listen, I don't know what the Rams have in store for him, what they have planned for him, but if this is what you got for someone who is easily the best nickelback in the NFL, this is a pretty damn good return on investment. You trade Tyreek Hill, and one of the guys you get in return essentially became Trent McDuffie, who helped you win back-to-back Super Bowls, almost 3 in a row. And now you're trading him away, and you're hoping you can repeat that process. Here's one other thing I want to touch on here. And by the way, if you guys want to call in, the link is right there in the chat. I'll get to your calls shortly. I see a couple of you guys on hold here. I know there's this big narrative that the Chiefs just don't pay cornerbacks. It's not just the cornerback position. They don't give second contracts to defensive backs. Now, have they paid veteran free agents before to come in here? Yes, they have. They pay Tyrann Mathieu. They pay Justin Reed. But Mathieu and Reed were not Chiefs draft picks. They played on other teams before coming to Kansas City. And I saw this from Underdog. The Chiefs have not given a second contract to a defensive back since Eric Berry 10 off seasons ago. 10 years. It's been a decade. Listen, I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing, though I will say this. At the time, I remember the Chiefs' highest paid players were Justin Houston and Eric Berry. And listen, Justin Houston and Eric Berry were fantastic football players. No Chiefs fan will say otherwise. And if anyone does, we just did not watch the same games. But if your highest paid players, your best players, were an edge rusher and a safety, there's a reason why the Chiefs were not winning championships or even playoff games back then. They only won one playoff game with Alex Smith, and this is not supposed to be a knock on Alex Smith. I appreciate everything he did for this franchise, helping them go from a 2-win team to starting off 9-0 and being a competitive football team. But the Chiefs had a ceiling with Alex Smith. There's a reason why the Chiefs went from 1-4 in the playoffs in the Andy Reid era to all of a sudden going to all these AFC championship games, bare minimum, up until this past season with Patrick Mahomes. And you want to go back to that form. That's what the Chiefs want. That's why the Chiefs made this trade. But I guess there is something to it with Brett Veach. In the Brett Veach era, we have not seen defensive backs get a second contract. I mean, listen, what if you get a safety or a cornerback? What if Jaden Hicks, hypothetical, but what if he leads the league in interceptions this year? I mean, do you continue that trend of not paying defensive backs? I don't know. That is such a weird thing with the Chiefs not willing to pay that position. Not saying that's a bad idea. I mean, listen, they found a way to win championships, right? So if they can find a way to rebuild and retool from this McDuffie trade with all the draft picks they got, perhaps it'll lead them to good things down the road. We'll find out very soon, I guess. Chris is here on the Chiefs Zone podcast. What's up, Chris? What's on your mind?
Not much. How you doing, brother?
Good, man. Good. Talk to me. How are you feeling about this trade?
You know what? I'm okay with it. When it comes down to it, bottom line is when the draft rolls around, we get some solid draft picks, we'll be just fine, especially if we can get Jeremiah Love. If we get Jeremiah Love with having Eric Bieniemy back, our offensive coordinator, can you imagine what our running game is going to be like next season? It's going to be just not even fair to opposing defenses.
Every running back that's played in Kansas City with Eric Bieniemy, whether Bieniemy's been the running backs coach or the offensive coordinator, they've done well. Jamal Charles had his best year in 2013 with Bieniemy as a running backs coach. Kareem Hunt led the league in rushing. I know after the 2017 season, the Chiefs haven't had a 1,000-yard rusher, but they've had running backs do really, really good things from 2018 to 2022 when EB was the OC. So, yeah, I mean, Jeremiah Love would just be another great running back under Bieniemy, and he's got a great track record of that even before Kansas City.
Absolutely. And you know, one other thing I want to point out when it comes to the draft, I feel one key factor is we have to get an elite pass rusher. There's just there's no question.
I agree. Yeah. And listen, with the draft capital you have, that will help. And that front four desperately needs help. I do want to go back to your Jeremiah Love comment because, listen, I want Jeremiah Love just as much as anyone else. But my question is this. How he's not falling at 9. In fairness, I said last year, there's no way Josh Simmons is falling to the Chiefs, and that happened. But Jeremiah Love just seems a little different here. I mean, you have to trade up, and I don't even know what the price would be with Tennessee, which is probably who you're going to have to trade with.
Yeah, there's no question about it, and it's probably gonna. I know it's going to be expensive to do, but I just feel strongly there's got to be some way that we can get him.
All right, I hear you, Chris. If they can find a way to do it, and I appreciate the call, Chris. If they can find a way to do it, yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. That is going to be a lot of fun to watch. It absolutely will. I mean, that'd be insane. If you haven't already, go on YouTube and just type Jeremiah Love highlights. Just do it. You're going to fall into one of those YouTube rabbit holes when you do that. You absolutely will. Sorry, I'm not saying anything. I'm just reading some of your guys' comments. I know I haven't read a lot of comments tonight. A Seahawks fan, the Chiefs made the Rams pay. I hate that they traded McDuffie to the Rams, but at least they got good value. Yeah, that's the thing. And listen, I mean, I because we're, talking about it from a Chiefs standpoint, I guess from a Rams standpoint, yeah, it's like your division rival just won the Super Bowl. So you've got to compete. And let's be honest, nobody had the Seahawks down as contenders this year. Nobody did. People wondered, will Cooper Kupp be the same? Is Sam Darnold going to be able to continue the success coming off that Minnesota season? It certainly worked. JSN balled out. Kenneth Walker, Super Bowl MVP, considering the passing game just wasn't there for Seattle in the Super Bowl. And listen, let's give the Patriots defense. Nobody talks about that Patriots defense. Everybody was talking about Drake May, and rightfully so. Drake May had a great season. But I think a lot of people just tend to forget how good that Patriots defense is. But there was one player they didn't account for, and that's Kenneth Walker. And I'll get into the free agency news later because there are reports out there that the Chiefs are linked to Travis Etienne Jr. That was about a week and a half ago. There's also a report out there that the Chiefs could be linked to Kenneth Walker as well. This could get really interesting for the Chiefs. If they're going to be aggressive for Travis Etienne Jr. or Kenneth Walker, that probably means they don't feel good about Jeremiah Love or their odds of getting Jeremiah Love at 9. And maybe they're not interested in trading up because they know that is going to be a big asking price from the Titans or the Cardinals, whoever they end up trading with. So they've definitely got to figure that out. Hey, if you guys want to call in, we've been commenting with the link in the chat. So please click on that and call into the podcast. Would love to hear from you guys. I don't open the phone lines, the call-in line up every single episode, but on a night like this where there's big news, I think there's definitely a reason to have that. So let's keep that going. Joe is here on the Chiefs Zone podcast. What's up, Joe?
Forrest, what's up, buddy?
Good, man. What's on your mind?
Oh, I just got here. How you feel so far about that trade?
I like it. I mean, no one wants to see McDuffie go, but with the compensation you got from a slot cornerback, it helps. We got much needed draft capital, and that's what's good for Kansas City. That's what they need.
So I was kind of thinking, did they do that draft capital to make a trade to go up to get Love?
See, this is the speculation that's out there. Look, I did not know. Let me just start with the Trent McDuffie trade because I asked this a little over 24 hours ago because Les Snead, the GM of the Rams, was talking about, yeah, we've been in talks with the other teams. We want to see if there's an all-pro defensive back out there. I mean, it's no secret the Rams needed help at quarterback. And my question was, first of all, we all knew he was talking about Trent McDuffie. So my question was, what is the asking price for Trent McDuffie? I've always said a 1 and a 3, maybe a 2 and a 3. It ended up being a 1, a future 3, as well as a 5 and a 6.
Yep.
Now, what is it to trade up? And these are always hard to predict. It's going to have to include your number 9 pick and maybe also your number 29 pick.
Which is why I don't know why they did that.
Is trading away those two worth it for Jeremiah Love? Maybe. I don't know. Now, are you giving up a lot in doing that if you're the Chiefs? Maybe. But if you feel that good about Jeremiah Love, perhaps. And to answer your question, Joe, I don't think that. Let me phrase it like this: they'll try. They'll certainly try. Brett Veach said in the combine that they want a more explosive running back. So they're certainly going to attempt something with the Tennessee Titans or the Arizona Cardinals, I would have to imagine.
Real quick though, I'm kind of confused on the McDuffie trade, really, because even though he is naturally a slot corner, did he not play outside all season?
He played some of it. He just wasn't as good. He wasn't awful. He wasn't terrible, but he's just way better inside. I mean, he is the best slot cornerback in the NFL. And listen, the Chiefs have had some good slot cornerbacks in the past. I remember Steve Nelson in 2016. He was
very good too.
He was a pretty damn good slot cornerback. Kendall Fuller was pretty good.
Very good slot cornerback. Yep.
So the Chiefs just always have had a knack for developing and having good slot cornerbacks. And I guess they didn't want to pay a slot cornerback. They certainly don't like to pay defensive backs. And they were able to get 4 draft picks for McDuffie.
Which makes no sense to me because they like to overpay defensive linemen. Like, no offense to George, because I think George is great.
That's a valid point.
He just signed a 6-year, $93 million extension to get 6 sacks. And if we're talking about, I mean, all season long, we talked about Chris Jones isn't getting enough pressure. Chris Jones isn't doing enough in the run game. Chris Jones isn't doing enough sack-wise. But it's like Chris Jones gets double-teamed almost every play, which means Karlaftis is not getting double-teamed every play.
That's why I think that the loss of Turk Wharton was huge last year. That was an underrated addition by the Panthers. And
I agree.
That's why I was excited when they got Omar Norman Lott, because he was great in college football when it came to pass rush rate in college, the best among any defensive tackles. But he got hurt a lot last year.
Yeah, he did.
If he can stay healthy, that'll help Chris Jones not get double teamed a lot. That is pertinent. And to go back to the previous caller, Josh was mentioning an edge rusher is pertinent. And I agree. I think we all agree on that. I think that can go. If they get an edge rusher like Reuben Bain Jr., and if Omar Norman Lott stays healthy, that's going to go a really long way with this defensive line.
So my thing, I was thinking though, is that like, is Bain okay? So when we got George, and then paid him $93 million in extension, is Bain better prospect than George was when he came out?
No, I think Bain's the better guy. Bain is expected to go top 10. George almost fell out of the first round.
Right. But we paid $93 million for George. I'm like saying, can we really afford to spend another draft pick in the first round on a D lineman? So don't get me wrong, Bain is a top 10 pick, but like, as far as other top 10 D linemen over the last 5 years, where would he rank among those? Like, there's a lot of talks of, even though he's good in run defense and he is a good pass disruptor, he has his short arm length. And when he gets caught on the block, he has a very hard time shedding that block. I'm saying if we've already put $93 million in George, and then we've put, what is it? It's at least $44.85 million right now this year in Jones, even though he's about to get restructured, they said. But still, though, that's 2 linemen with a mass amount of money. Do we really want to spend a first-round pick on another lineman that's going to also want a lot of money in 3 or 4 years when we just lost Hunt and Pacheco and then Juju and Brown? I mean, whether or not they played up to their expectations last year, Juju's a phenomenal wide receiver at blocking. He does very good in blocking as a wide receiver, but then we're down 2 running backs. Hollywood was our number 2 receiver last year, with Xavier and Rice both getting hurt or suspended frequently throughout the entire season. So we're down 4 starters on offense. And we were number 9 in total defense, was it 5 or 6 in pass yards, and then number 9 in rush yards. So even though our rushing the passer was not that good, our defense was still top 10 in yards, passing, rushing, and total defense. I feel like the number 9 pick has to be something on offense. I feel like we've tied a lot of money up on defense already for players that are either underperforming or not performing at all, and offense needs a lot of help.
Yeah, I appreciate the call, Joe. Good points, good question. Let me just say this. If the Chiefs' offense can play better, you know what that's going to do? That's going to help the defense, because the Chiefs had a lot of 3-and-outs last year. Look at that Houston Texans game. The Texans had -2 yards of total offense in the third quarter. And I get it, CJ Stroud was not good last year, but that's still -2 yards in the third quarter of a football game. Not a single first down during that quarter. But guess what? The Chiefs offense did not return the favor. I mean, they just weren't playing great football in the second half of that game. And if the Chiefs can be more consistent on offense and not have short-lived drives, forcing their own defense to come back out on the field, then yes, that's going to go a really long way. And he makes a valid point. The Chiefs have been a top 10 defense in total yards and points allowed 3 years in a row. They don't get a lot of sacks or takeaways, especially the last 2 years, but they've still found a way to not allow teams to light up the scoreboard. I mean, Kansas City's junior varsity team hung in there with the Broncos, who reached the AFC Championship game. Like, the Chiefs are, I mean, they've found ways to stay competitive, at least on the defensive side. So you can do that. Now, to his question and comment about how number 9 has to be offense, perhaps, but it also depends on who's available. The only offensive player that I hear a lot of people talking about with the Chiefs is Jeremiah Love. I know Cardinal Tate is starting to garner more attention, but again, I don't know if he's going to be there at 9. Maybe Jordan Tyson is someone who they look at, but maybe that's too early at 9. I don't know. It seems like there's been more conversation about edge rushers because maybe Ruben Bain might be available at 9 as opposed to Jeremiah Love. By the way, I see Nick in the comment asking, can Bieniemy do some magic with Pacheco and Smith? You're referring to Brashard Smith. Listen, here's what I will say. And I tossed this idea earlier in the offseason. I'm not a fan of this idea, but this is something that I've tossed at one point. Would the Chiefs consider bringing back Pacheco and Hunt? For 2 reasons. One, they're both going to be ridiculously cheap. Number 2, Bieniemy has coached both Pacheco and Hunt. He coached Pacheco for a full season in 2022, and he coached Hunt for a full season in 2017. Now, Bieniemy was a running backs coach that year when Hunt led the league in rushing. Now, we know the story about Kareem Hunt in 2018, where he got kicked off the team. That was Bieniemy's first year as the OC, coached Hunt for a majority of that season up until he was let go on the last day of November or the first day of December, somewhere around there. So Eric Bieniemy has a lot of familiarity with both Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco. Now, could the Chiefs go that route? I give it a slim chance, because I do think the Chiefs are ready to move on from Pacheco. Coach Scott on TikTok says we need a safety too at pick 9. Love Caleb. Yeah, Caleb Downs is the safety that I know a lot of people are looking at in the top 10. You know what would be a really interesting player to get? Because I've seen a few people in mock drafts project that the Chiefs will get an offensive tackle before today's trade. I've seen a couple. I saw one in particular, and I apologize. I don't remember. I think it was Lance Zerloin of NFL.com. He had the Chiefs trading back and getting an offensive lineman, a left tackle specifically. I'm not opposed to trading down for a right tackle because that's what the Chiefs actually need, not a left tackle. They just drafted one last year. There are 2 right tackles. We don't hear a lot about right tackles in the first round, but there are 2 very good options. And Francis Maui-Noah, who is probably going to be top 5, but what if he slips a little bit? Oh, that'd be a big addition for the Chiefs at 9. There's also Spencer Fano. Spencer Fano from Utah had a great 3-year career there as a freshman playing left tackle and was even better as a right tackle. And what's weird about Fano is I've seen his name all over the place with mock drafts. I've seen him in the top 10. I've also seen him in the 20s. It's hard to predict where Fano's going to go, but that has to be a player the Chiefs are keeping an eye on. If you guys want to call in, the link is right there. Feel free to call in. And yeah, and I do agree, Charlie. I think they're going to end up re-signing Kareem Hunt, but they're going to let Isaiah Pacheco walk. You know what's really crazy? And it's been a quiet offseason for the Chiefs. I mean, a majority of it was the focus on the coaching staff, right? I understand that. But that's been finalized for quite some time. Now, they just officially let go of Jawan Taylor today. They let go of Mike Dana last week. This Trent McDuffie deal will be official in a week. But when are we going to hear about the first re-signing? Because we haven't had that yet. And once that happens, you're going to start to see more moves. I know the big re-signing that everyone's waiting on is Travis Kelce. And listen, I don't want Travis Kelce back for one more year. I thought Travis Kelce looked far better this past year than the year before. And I don't want to hear, oh, he only had 800 some yards. Yeah, he was on pace for 1,000 if Mahomes didn't get hurt. I mean, if my quarterbacks were Gardner Minshew, Chris Oladokun, and Shane Buechele, I'm not getting a lot of yards either. As a matter of fact, the Chiefs only scored 1 touchdown in the last 3 games without Mahomes. So I'm not going to, the fact that Kelce could not surpass 1,000 yards, I'm not holding that against him. But you can't. That's just ridiculous. But the one name that I am really eager to see what the Chiefs are going to do if they're going to re-sign him is Tyquan Thornton. You've got to re-sign that guy, and not just re-sign him, use him. Use him. It drove me nuts last year they didn't use him, especially when those guys came back. He says 3 and out will be better this year. Taylor was cut. Yeah, Jawan Taylor was a drive killer, if we're being honest. He was a big drive killer. Yeah, listen, to be clear, like, I was a huge fan of Pacheco when they got him. I was like, wait a minute, why did this guy almost go undrafted? And I told you guys back in 22, I'm like, look out for this guy. And he ended up being good, really good for a couple of years, you know, considering he almost went undrafted. But I do agree, Joshua, I'm not really interested in him being re-signed. I'm not terribly opposed to it because he played under Bieniemy before. That makes it a little enticing, but overall decision would be a no. I agree. Can he teach them not to run into the offensive line? Yeah, that is certainly that's significant. Hannah's asking, what are your thoughts on if Travis comes back? I just ended up seeing this question. I know I'm catching up on the comments here. I mean, listen, like I said, Kelce was far better last year than the year before. He wasn't elite like he has been in years past, but he'd certainly improved. And I think all the rumors we heard about his offseason workouts and trimming some weight and all of that paid off. He would have had 1,000 yards if Mahomes did not get hurt. Wouldn't DeMarco Murray coach the running backs, not Eric? Yes, but Eric would still have a big hand in that. And being that he is a former running back and a former running backs coach, you know, he'll certainly be involved a lot with the running backs because naturally, because that he's a running backs guy. I mean, running backs have just done really well under Bieniemy. Let's go over this real quickly. And I'm doing this off the top of my head. 2013, 2014, you had Jamal Charles. He was great those 2 years, especially 2013, led the league in touchdowns scored. 2015, Jamal got hurt, but Spencer Ware and Charkandrick West, they both did a really good job as a duo filling in. 2016, Spencer Ware was one of the best pass-catching running backs. 2017, Kareem Hunt led the league in rushing yards. 2018, he was on his way to being, I think, top 5 in total yards from scrimmage, along with Todd Gurley. Remember that guy? He fell off pretty quickly. Damian Williams balled out in the playoffs. They bring in LaShawn McCoy. I mean, he wasn't bad. I know he didn't like Bieniemy, but, you know, he had a good yard per carry average. Damian Williams continued to do big things in the postseason. They draft Isaiah Pacheco, and he does really well his rookie season under Bieniemy, the only season Pacheco played under Bieniemy as OC. So listen, these running backs have done really, really well. Oh, by the way, Jerick McKinnon was great in 2022. He won AFC Offensive Player of the Month for December and the 2 weeks in January put together. But after 2022, they bring back McKinnon, but he was not the same guy. Pacheco was not the same guy. That's why I'm excited about bringing back Eric Bieniemy, because, look, the data is just out there, and I just gave it to you. And there's a lot more, and we've gone over it before. It just seems like Bieniemy always gets the best from guys, whereas Matt Nagy didn't. Yeah, the Caleb Downs. I know a lot of people are kind of worried about that, so we'll see. Jim says this Buckeye fan knows how good Downs is. Won't have a problem with the Chiefs drafting him at 9. Just saying, if there was anyone from Ohio State I like, and I'm not saying Caleb Downs is bad. I mean, I think there's a little bit of a concern with his health. I know the report came out that his family wasn't happy. Man, Carnell Tate. Go look up Carnell Tate's highlight reel. I mean, he just had defensive backs fooled. That dude balled out last year for Ohio State. And there's a reason why he might be a top 10 pick. Jacob says, I think we need another offensive weapon, whether it's a pass catcher or running back. See, I think that's why a lot of people are looking at that tight end from Oregon, Kenyon Sadiq, because he had a really good combine. His 40 time impressed a lot of people. In fact, by the way, he's celebrating his 21st birthday today. So, you know, you can get a guy even 1 year younger that can go a long way in possibly retaining him. And look, drafting a tight end at 9 is not ideal. I've seen some mock drafts now that, you know, because the Chiefs have 2 first-round draft picks, 4 in the top 75, by the way. I've seen some mock drafts, the Chiefs getting Sadiq. Man, I don't know. I like him. I think he's going to have a great career. I just don't know if the Chiefs are so focused on targeting him. I'm sure they're considering him. I just don't know if he's high on their priority list. Carnell Tate, sure, he might be up there. But again, here's my question on wide receiver. And I've talked about this on Monday, and I'll talk about it again. How high is wide receiver on the priority list for the Chiefs? And maybe that question is pertinent now, because what do you do with Rashee Rice? This guy can't stay away from drama. I mean, even if he has a great season, are the Chiefs just preparing to move on from him? Like, are they preparing for life after Rashee Rice contract expires? Are they just ready to move on from him? Because I kind of feel like they might be thinking that. You have to be considering that if you're Kansas City. I know Andy Reid said no. I mean, listen, he's not going to publicly ever admit that. No team would. But that has to be something they're considering. But look, when Tyreek Hill when that audio came out of him a few years ago, what was their first pick? It was a wide receiver. It was McCole Hardman. The day Xavier Worthy got arrested and charged, and I know the DA got more evidence and spoke to witnesses and his name was cleared of wrongdoing. But on that day, what did they do? They re-signed Hollywood Brown. Like, those things are not a coincidence. They're just not. Like, you have to be thinking about a potential replacement for Rashee Rice. Maybe that guy's on the team right now in Jalen Royals, who people feel like should have been taken sooner. I don't know. We didn't see much of Royals, so it's not easy to really predict right now. You guys know my thoughts on Tyquan Thornton. But man, I just feel like if Patrick Mahomes has the offensive line and an explosive running back would certainly be a big bonus. I think a lot of the other things will fall into place. And look, I certainly hope with, here's the thing. I've said this many times and I'll die on this hill. I still believe in the trio of Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, and Hollywood Brown, and having Tyquan Thornton as part of your depth is great. But man, they just looked awful. And listen, I've already said this before, and I have it on good authority that Connor Embry, the previous wide receivers coach, the wide receivers did not take that guy seriously. They just didn't. And I know Nate Taylor has that report that the wide receivers were actually frustrated with Connor Embry. And I think that's a big reason why they let him go. So I just think there's way too much talent at that wide receiver position. And referring to the wide receiver group he had in 2025, Hollywood, of course, is a free agent, as is Tyquan Thornton. I just think that is way too much talent. I think there are a lot of quarterbacks that would love to have Worthy, Rice, Hollywood, and Thornton. Obviously, with the thought that Rice stays out of trouble and all. So I don't know, man. I just feel like that is way too talented of a group to give up on, but the Chiefs did give it a second chance. I think it could be even better with Eric Bieniemy back, as well as Chad O'Shea as your wide receivers coach. Rob Gronkowski was on Kay Adams' podcast, and he straight up said that Chad O'Shea is responsible for Julian Edelman. Well, what do you know? In a low-scoring Super Bowl between the Patriots and the Rams, who won Super Bowl MVP? Julian Edelman. And I'm not suggesting that Worthy or Rice or a future wide receiver could win Super Bowl MVP. We don't see that often. I know that was a popular prediction with JSN for this past year's Super Bowl, but it really does excite you. The idea of Chad O'Shea, who's won 3 Super Bowls in New England. I mean, that's a guy that is expected to develop a lot of these wide receivers, as well as Eric Bieniemy, because Rice and Worthy have never played for Bieniemy. So those are guys who are about to grow up pretty fast because they're going to be surrounded by better coaches. Coaching matters, man, not just with your head coach, but with the entire coaching staff. That goes a long way with any football team. Spags with Downs would be really fun. I agree. Roy says, what do you think about wide receiver Stephon Diggs? Yeah, so for those who did not hear the breaking news a couple of hours ago in New England, they went ahead and cut Stephon Diggs. Listen, you already have drama with one wide. I like Stephon Diggs for the record. I think he's a phenomenal wide receiver. I mean, he was great in Minnesota. He was great in Buffalo. He was great in Houston, not as great. And he did some good things with New England this year. But man, he's just got so many off the field issues right now. I just don't know. And look, there's no confirmation of this, but there have been rumors out there about, his attitude in a locker room. I remember when the Bills were losing to the Bengals in that snowy playoff game in Buffalo. You see Stephon Diggs putting his arms up in front of Josh Allen. And listen, Kansas City's not clear of, those kinds of things. I mean, we've had sideline incidents before with Kelsey and Andy Reid in the Super Bowl one time in Vegas, Reid and Bieniemy, Mahomes and Bieniemy. Those things happen sometimes. I remember, I think it was Mike Tomlin and I want to say Le'Veon Bell. They were kind of clashing on the sidelines, and Todd Haley, of all people, was like trying to be the voice of reason, trying to break that up. But I don't know. There's just way too much baggage with Stephon Diggs, as much as I like the guy on the field. Mike Evans is up there in age, Jacob. He's a great player as well. He's had, 1,000 yards receiving 8-9 years in a row? Very few wide receivers have done that. Very few. Charlie says EB doesn't have time to babysit another. Yeah, I mean, listen. And I've said this before, too. The Chiefs have had a lot of off-the-field issues lately, and I think they're really trying to graduate from that. Sonny Styles, I'm a big fan of Sonny Styles. I'd be surprised if he's there at 9. And even if he is there at 9, I don't think the Chiefs are going to go that route. I think they're comfortable with the linebackers they have, whether Chenal comes back or not. And plus, they have far more pressing needs. But, dude, he's going to have a damn good career, I think. Sadiq is going before 29. See, I think he's too early to take at 9, but I do agree with you, Joshua. I don't think he'll be there at 29. Brad says Tate got second corner coverage because of Smith. He is good, but not great. I will say this. In the highlight reels that I've watched of Cardinal Tate, like, the defensive backs just don't look good. Now, if you're a wide receiver, you can't apologize for that. Like, I remember when Tim Tebow won that playoff game for the Broncos on one play in overtime, and everyone was like, oh, it's because Polamalu fell for the play action. Well, that's what every quarterback does. When a quarterback sees a defensive back fall asleep for just a fraction of a second, that's where they throw the football. I mean, every quarterback does that, whether you're a Tim Tebow or Tom Brady. If Cardinal Tate is available at 9, I think the Chiefs should grab him. He could replace Rice. See, I don't disagree. Like, that'd be massive for Kansas City. And you know, long term, if they can find a way to bring back Thornton as well. But again, I just go back to that question of how high of a priority is that for Kansas City? Do I think the Chiefs are keeping a close eye on Cardinal Tate? Yeah, absolutely. Because I do think there's a chance that Jeremiah Love, Reuben Bain Jr., David Bailey, and Francis Mauigoa, like, I think they could all be gone by the time the Chiefs are on the clock. And then what do? Is Cardinal Tate the guy? Is Caleb Downs the guy? Do you trade out of the top 10? Like, what do you do? That really does create a lot of things. Chris says cut Rice, trade away, and 39th for Harrison Jr. Are you suggesting to cut him or to trade him? Because you wrote cut Rice. Trade worthy. I apologize. I misread that. They're not trading worthy. And second of all, Tyreek. Oh man, there's a lot of uncertainty with Tyreek Hill right now. Not just on the field, but off the. We already have an off the field dramatic wide receiver. That's why I just said no to Stephon Diggs. And listen, is 80% Tyreek Hill better than some wide receivers? Perhaps. But is Tyreek Hill even going to be at 80%? I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty with Tyreek Hill. And let me just say this about Tyreek Hill too, because I don't know if people realize this. He's free to sign with anyone he wants. He doesn't have to wait for next week. He doesn't have to wait for the new league year. I don't need to tell Chiefs fans how great Tyreek Hill is. We all know that. But the fact that teams haven't signed him yet, that's got to say something. Because if Tyreek, I mean, and I understand the Dolphins released him because of the injury, but let's also say this. Hypothetically, let's say he didn't get hurt and Miami still had a bad season. They chose to let Tyreek Hill go anyway. Tyreek Hill should have been signed by now. But that injury has teams concerned. All 31 other teams are concerned about it. Kyle says Mekhi Lemon at 9. Man, I don't know. I know the big knock on him lately is his I guess his demeanor and his tone at the press conference he had. I'm not going to judge a guy because of that. I mean, the teams do a lot of research and due diligence to try to figure out, with their background and all of that, but I don't know. The trio ain't working. I don't get it. Farzy and Hollywood has really done nothing for us. Listen, let me just say this about Hollywood Brown. If Hollywood Brown was supposed to be your number one wide receiver, yeah, that's bad. But Hollywood Brown in an offense where you have Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce and Tyquan Thornton, I mean, the Chiefs should have had way better numbers last year. Wait, it's almost like Sammy Watkins. If Sammy Watkins was your number one wide receiver in 2018, that's bad news. But Sammy Watkins wasn't even your first or your second biggest pass catcher. Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill led the way. Watkins was a part of your pass catching depth, because I'm lumping wide receivers and tight ends together on this one. That's the way I view Hollywood Brown, just to be clear. Because, again, Hollywood's done some good things in the past with not great talent. That's why, I'm not ready to give up on him, but perhaps the Chiefs are, and I understand that. That's all I'm saying. Nagy's offensive coordinator was atrocious. Good luck to the New York Giants. Yeah. And I like Jackson Dart and Cam Scott, but I really like those guys. I think New York has some talented offensive players. If they can bring back Wan'Dale Robinson and it's Malik Neighbors, right? Who they have? Or am I confusing him for another wide receiver from that draft class? Yeah, Malik Neighbors. I think I was getting him confused for another wide receiver from that draft class in 2024. But yeah, I mean, that's a damn good group of offensive players that should honestly do better. So we'll see what they choose to do with that. Yeah, I was confusing him for Roma Dunze, but I knew he was with the Bears. Yeah, I thought so. Until you get more discipline, play from the team, you won't know how good or bad they really were. Yeah. I mean, you can certainly see Tyreek Hill has some regret in that for sure. Steven says we should get Alec Pierce. That would be the deep threat Patrick needs, since losing Tyreek, Thornton too for a backup. Yeah, Thornton and Pierce, they were among the best when it came to yards per catch average, I should say. But that is going to cost you a lot. Cardinal Tate would probably not be as good, but would be a much cheaper option. I know Sammy Watkins is better than Hollywood Brown, but my point is Hollywood was not a number one, was not supposed to be a number one wide receiver. He's on a roster with a lot of speed, just like Sammy Watkins. If Watkins was your number one wide receiver permanently, that would have been a bad thing. I know in 2019, Tyreek got injured and Watkins was your number one wide receiver, but you also still had Travis Kelce as a pass catcher as well. And hopefully still do for one more year. We'll see. But all I'm saying is it's just one of those situations where the Chiefs were relying far more on depth and were hoping that Rice would have been their standout number one wide receiver when he came back. And it was the complete opposite. The wide receiver room was completely disappointing. Hollywood Brown had good moments. Rice had one great game, and that was the Indianapolis game. I mean, he did well in his first game back against the Raiders, but it's also the Raiders. Come on. I just feel like that wide receiver room should have done way better last year. Tony says we need a big outside receiver. You have one who's a pending free agent, and Tyquan Thornton, he's 6'2", runs pretty damn well. One of the fastest. That dude was torching defensive backs last year, but him and Mahomes just did not have a good connection last season. So I really hope they can work on that. I mean, I know Tyquan Thornton said that he, sees his value in him and wants to be involved more. Yeah, I don't blame him for feeling that way. I hope he comes back. because I think Eric Bieniemy can get even more out of him. I mean, man, I'm eager for these next 7 days because the official negotiating period starts this weekend, this Sunday. But we all know that these agents and GMs, I mean, they're talking at the combine already. God, man, I hope Tyquan Thornton is not at the point where he and his agent are in a negotiating phase with other teams. I do not want that. Look, I hate to say it. I'd rather have Tyquan Thornton back than Travis Kelce. Kelce's great. But Tyquan's just got so much more upside. And yeah, sure. I mean, he's been around since 2022, but he's still fairly young and he hasn't been used a whole lot. So he still has a bunch of tread left in those tires. So I don't know, man. I mean, it just feels weird to not retain him when I think there's way too much potential with him. Way too much. All right, a couple other things. I know we still have to get to our guest hit with Andy Parks. We'll get into that later, which was recorded yesterday, by the way, and I'll play that later on. But there are multiple reports out there that the Chiefs are linked to Seahawks free agent running back and reigning Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker III. And I think there was one report out there that talked about how the Chiefs might be in the $8 million range to try to get Kenneth Walker. Or if you remember a couple of weeks ago, there was a report out there that the Chiefs are also linked to Travis Etienne Jr. Something important about Travis Etienne Jr., the last 3 years, he's had 825 total touches. He's only had one fumble of those 825. This past season, he had 6 receiving touchdowns in the regular season. That is the second most behind Christian McCaffrey, who had 7 among running backs. And by the way, Etienne had another touchdown catch in the playoffs against Buffalo. So that is the guy that really fits Andy Reid's offense. Breece Hall would be great for Andy Reid's offense, but he got the franchise tag. And the Chiefs just got a lot of draft capital from the Trent McDuffie trade. I don't think they're interested in giving all of that up for Breece Hall, especially when Kenneth Walker and Etienne are available. Let me ask you guys this question. See, Kimberly says $8 million seems low for a reigning Super Bowl MVP. I think it could just be because of that position. I could be wrong, but that might be why. Here's my question to you guys, because let's be honest, Jeremiah Love is not going to be there at 9. So if you're going to go after a running back, it's probably because you don't think Love is going to be there, and the asking price to move up with either Tennessee or Arizona is probably going to be pretty damn high, and rightfully so. You're going from number 9 to top 5. So here's my question to you guys. When it comes to Travis Etienne Jr. and Kenneth Walker III, who would you rather have? Both are great options. Neither is a bad answer. But I want to know from you guys, who would you rather have if you're Kansas City? Who would you rather see Brett Veach sign? Would you rather it be Kenneth Walker or would it be Travis Etienne Jr.? Because both have good skill sets. I personally think Travis Etienne Jr. would be better suited for Andy Reid's offense, especially all the things he does out of the backfield. But you certainly cannot dismiss what Kenneth Walker just accomplished. Now, yes, he is the reigning Super Bowl MVP, and I don't want to downplay winning Super Bowl MVP. Like, that's a massive deal. But you do have to look at his overall body of work. Now, he's got a great overall body of work. He rushed for 1,000 yards this year. That's far more than any Chiefs running back from this past season. Scored 5 touchdowns. He had a big NFC Championship game against the Patriots. Or I'm sorry, against the Rams. 19 runs, 62 yards, had a touchdown on that one. Also had 4 catches for 49 yards. He had 9 catches for 104 yards in the playoffs. Against the Rams, he rushed for 116 yards and 3 touchdowns. He rushed for 135 yards in the Super Bowl against the Pats. I mean, this dude balled out in the playoffs. And if he plays under Eric Bieniemy, boy, that'd be nice. He had 36 catches for 282 yards. He averaged just north of 9 yards a catch. Whereas in the playoffs, and I understand the playoffs are just 3 games, but those are 3 significant games, 3 big games. He averaged more than 11.5 yards per reception out of the backfield. That's a huge deal. So I want to know from you guys, who do you want more? Would you rather it be Walker or ETN? Let's see. Do we give the Jets the third we got from the Rams for Hall? I mean, I think the Jets are going to ask for much more than that, especially considering he's on the franchise tag. I mean, that whatever you're going to be giving up for him, I mean, you're going to be paying him a lot of money. So that's the other thing you've got to figure out. A lot of people saying ETN. See, I agree with that. I'm a little surprised about that. Orlando says Walker can't catch. What? He just had 9 catches for, what was it, 119 yards, 104 yards. I mean, I don't know if I agree, Orlando. I think ETN's a better pass catching running back, sure, but I wouldn't agree with that. He can't catch. Walker is more of a physical runner, so he is also short yardage in a pinch and won't top the plays. See, I'm seeing a lot of people bring up McKinnon and those comparisons. I think a lot of people want the Chiefs to have that Jerick McKinnon style running back. Because keep in mind, who were your running backs in 2022? Isaiah Pacheco is who you drafted in the 7th round. 2 years before that, you drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the 1st round. Yet you still found ways to get Jerick McKinnon involved. And that was not the year where they had all the drops. That was the year after. So the Chiefs, not only did Patrick Mahomes have one of the best seasons ever by a quarterback, shattering the NFL single season record for total yards, passing and rushing by a quarterback, they still found a way to get Isaiah Pacheco involved. I mean, he did pretty damn well considering he almost went undrafted that year being his rookie campaign, and getting Jerick McKinnon highly involved, winning AFC Offensive Player of the Month at the end of the regular season. And I think a lot of Chiefs fans want to see if they can bring that style of a running back to Kansas City, because that would really go a long way for the offense. Yeah, that's what Max was just saying. That would look great in their offense. I agree. So a lot of people going with ETN. I'm surprised. I thought a lot of you guys were going to go with Walker here. It just seems like Walker has more hype out there from the media because, I mean, he just won Super Bowl MVP, so I get that. I just think ETN is far more better suited for his offense. And that's someone that Eric Bieniemy can work with. And yes, Kyle, yeah, DeMarco Murray as well, for sure. So that would be pretty good. McDuffie wasn't that great. Maybe not as an outside quarterback, but man, as a slot corner, there was no one better. And I think the conversation with that is, to go back to the McDuffie trade, since that's what this podcast is all about tonight. I think the conversation about that is more geared towards, do you pay money for a slot cornerback? The Chiefs said no. I think the Chiefs also said no because they just don't pay defensive backs. But also, if there's a way to get a lot of draft picks for a slot cornerback, we make that trade. And that's what they did. That is what they did. See, Johnny is saying ETN and sign Hunt for the short yardage situations. That's my ideal situation. I'd like either Jeremiah Love or ETN. I think ETN is far more the more realistic one. And then Kareem Hunt's your number 2 guy. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Kimberly is saying that's the problem. Too much hype. ETN is a quiet underdog that would fit with KC much better. And listen, I think that Jacksonville offense was just far better. That Jacksonville offense had a big coaching problem for years, which is unfortunate because I'm a big fan of Doug Peterson. And I hated that it didn't work out for him, not only in Philadelphia, but also in Jacksonville. They had Urban Meyer, who couldn't even make it a full season with that team. I mean, that was a disaster. But Liam Cohen, man, dude, that guy got the Jaguars moving in the right direction. Because all that talk about Trevor Lawrence and how he's a once-in-a-generation quarterback, we haven't seen it. We finally saw a glimpse of it because Trevor Lawrence balled out this year. And I would, March the 4th, I'm telling you this now, I would not be shocked if Trevor Lawrence was in the discussion for MVP in 2026. I would not be surprised at all. Because I think that Jaguars offense made so much progress that year. And people thought the Jaguars were going to fall apart. And they never did. They had a great run. So if ETN plays under a better coaching staff, which he did this past year, and if he comes to Kansas City, it'd be an even better coaching staff. Man, ETN could have a really good time here in Kansas City. Would that be a 1-year deal, a 2-year deal, a 3-year deal? I don't think it would be more than a 3-year deal. I think 2 is probably the more ideal and the most realistic possibility because he is a little older than Walker. Walker's 25. ETN turned 27. ETN turned 27 in late January. When did Walker turns 26 in October. So they're about a year and a half, little less than that, apart in age. So I still think ETN is the better option at the end of the day because he would be better fitted for this offense. Didn't Andy want Cohen on the coaching staff at one time? Maybe. Orlando says, who replaces 22 as a slot cornerback? That's a pretty damn good question. I don't think that guy is on the team right now. Whoever is replacing Trent McDuffie and trying to do what he did, I don't think that guy's on the team right now. I mean, could Christian Roland Wallace do it? Christian Roland Wallace had a pretty solid rookie season. For a guy that was undrafted in 2024, he did some good things on Kansas City's defense that year. I think he might be in line to replace McDuffie. That's a name I would keep an eye on, Christian Roland Wallace. All right, I'll answer a few more questions, and then I'll play that interview with Andy Parks. By the way, before I forget, I do want to play this clip. There's a gentleman who I've gotten to know as well as his son, Jackson. Jackson, I actually posted a photo of Jackson years ago before I even met him and his father. Jackson is a 10-year-old who's battling leukemia for a third time. And he's been very fortunate receiving so much love in the community from guys like Patrick Mahomes, Trent Green, Trent McDuffie, which I'm about to get into. Jey Uso of the WWE. They had a great moment that went viral one time. I want to play this clip for you. It's about a minute long. And I'll answer a few more questions when we come back. But I want you guys to watch this. And might be a little bit of a tearjerker here. Check this out.
This is cooler than me. Holy moly. This is actually so heavy. That's the one.
Let me just fill in some context here. So after Jey Uso hugged Jackson because he saw his sign, Yeet versus cancer, Jey Uso wanted his team to get in contact with Jackson and his father, and they were able to, fortunately. Jey Uso sent him the WWE title because he was the champion at the time. And he also sent him, he gave him his glasses during the WWE Raw event. So that's where the belt comes from that you see in this video here.
Let him put the glasses. Those are Jey Uso's. Yeet too? He gave you these? Yeah. Oh, man. Throw that over your shoulder. You're the champ. Man. Top 25 under 25, right? Man, there he is.
Take a picture. What are you doing, bro? Get over here. Get over here. After. After.
Welcome to the TPJ Field.
You guys came down.
Thank you, Trent, for everything you've done to me and my dad. And we really appreciate it. And I always keep you in my prayers and hearts, Trent. Love you.
And this was from the Chiefs social media, the crucial catch, which used to just focus on breast cancer awareness, but they wanted to recognize all forms of cancer. And I saw the Chiefs social media team post this, and that's how you spell Jackson's name, Jackson. And I'm like, well, Trent's met him a couple of times, and there aren't a lot of people who spell Jackson that way. So I knew who he was referring to, and I reached out to his father, and his father, Jeff, shout out to him. That's pretty special. That's what I'll remember Trent McDuffie for. Not just being a great player on the field, but also what he did off the field in the community. That's special, man. That's special. And listen, shout out to Jackson. If you're the praying type, send him a prayer, him and his family. Good vibes, whatever it is you do, man. He could certainly use it. I've met Jackson. I've been around Jackson a few times. You would not know that he's going through anything. You wouldn't know it just from being around him, man. The dude's full of energy, full of life, and I love that. He's awesome, man. He's a good kid, and I'm praying for him every night. And he's connected with Royals players. Angel Zerpa, who unfortunately got traded as well, he made Jackson feel pretty special several times whenever he and his dad would go out to the ballpark. And anytime he saw him before a game, he would certainly take the time with Jackson, which is awesome at Kauffman. So I always appreciate players who do that kind of thing, man. I always remember players for what they do off the field more than what they do on the field. Like, it's great what they do on the field, and we cheer for it on Sundays and Mondays, Thursdays, whenever. But when you hear about the stuff they do off the field, I remember that as well. So I don't think that kind of stuff gets enough coverage. Like Rashee Rice getting in trouble, that gets talked about everywhere, but this kind of stuff doesn't. And I wish it did more. So I wanted to put that on there, recognize that. I posted that earlier today on my social media. So if you missed it just moments ago, and you don't want to go through this entire podcast once it gets archived, go check it out on my social media. It's everywhere. YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, everywhere. So check that out when you get a chance. I'll read a few more questions, and then I'll play the pre-recorded interview with Andy Parks, which is going to wrap up the podcast. All those picks we got for Tyreek to fix the Chiefs' defense just broke. I don't disagree. I mean, listen, isn't that why you went and made this trade, though, to try to fix it back up again right away? Because here's the thing about the Chiefs. They find a way to draft really good defensive backs and develop them. Marcus Peters led the league in interceptions in his 3 years as a Chief. L'Jarius Sneed, highly underrated cornerback in Kansas City. And listen, I don't think this is the most fair way to judge teams and GMs specifically, but let's be honest, the Chiefs won that trade when they traded away L'Jarius Sneed because he's barely been available for the Titans. And then Trent McDuffie, who has been nothing but great for a majority of his time in KC. They didn't keep him either. They traded him for 4 draft picks. And I think the Chiefs are going to try to bring in some defensive backs and try to rebuild that secondary, as well as, the defensive line as well. Try to improve that as well. All right, I think we're okay. This is the last question here. Who are your top prospects for all of these picks we've got? Like we've talked about 9, but what about 29? Yeah, that's a really good question. What would the Chiefs do at 29? It depends on how far Fano falls. There's a quarterback from South Carolina that'd be really good, especially for his size. I think he would certainly be someone that could make an impact. Cassius Howell, depending where he ends up, if he's there at 29, that'd be a good edge rusher. If you don't get the ideal edge rusher at 9, TJ Parker's another potential replacement. Colton Hood, a quarterback that they could certainly look at from Tennessee. Jermon McCoy, another cornerback from Tennessee. Tennessee might have 2 cornerbacks that go in the first round. So those are certainly some things to look at there. All right. I'm going to get out of here. What you're about to see for the next 20 to 25 minutes is a pre-recorded interview with Andy Parks. Andy Parks is a comic book writer. You'll learn about him. He will be at Planet Comic-Con, just like how we will be at Planet Comic-Con. The Chiefs Zone will be at Planet Comic-Con this month, March 29th. And Andy Parks, not only is he a comic book writer, he's also a Chiefs fan. He's actually a listener of the podcast. I had no idea. One of the event organizers for Planet Comic-Con told me that they're friends with him on Facebook, and he shares a lot of my content. And I went and looked because I didn't believe it. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. He's working with a lot of big names that you'll recognize. So if you're interested, stick around. That interview will be playing next. Otherwise, I appreciate you all joining me, and I will talk to you all this Friday for the Red Friday Q&A live chat. Take care. Joining us here on the Chiefs Zone podcast. Very excited to have this person on. He is a huge Kansas City Chiefs fan and a listener of the podcast as well. Also does a lot of great work in the comic book world. Projects like Union Station, Kapate in Kansas, and also one that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, Extraction, which is a big hit on Netflix, and many other great things that he has done. Very excited to have on the podcast, Andy Parks here on the Chiefs Zone. Andy, thank you so much for joining us here. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you being on here. Honored to have you on. You've done a lot of great things with your work, and I think there might be a lot of people out there who watch a lot of movies, but maybe not familiar with the creations of those movies. So I definitely want to get into some of the things that you've done and your accomplishments. But I do want to talk some Kansas City Chiefs with you because I know you're a really big Chiefs fan. Talk to me about your Chiefs fandom. When did you become a Chiefs fan? Do you go to games often? Tell us about yourself as a Chiefs fan.
I was really born into Chiefs fandom. Not quite. I predate them a little, but I always tell people, and I told Len Dawson this when I met him, I was home with a sitter on Christmas Day for the longest game ever played.
Oh.
Both my parents were there. Yeah. And that did not end well for anybody involved. It's funny, when I met Len Dawson at the old KCI, we'd been on the same flight. I met him at baggage claim. I told him that, and he said, "Oh, Jan still won't talk about that game."
Oh, man.
So my parents had tickets going back that far. And then in junior high, high school, and past, I went to games for decades with my mom. We saw a lot of bad football. I was there for Todd Blackledge throwing a screen pass for a pick six.
Oh, geez.
I saw Derek Thomas get 7 sacks, right?
Yeah.
And still lose the game with Dave Craig, I think, throwing one right into our end zone. We were in the club level, right in the end zone. For a lot of years.
I've got to ask, because you've gone through, I mean, a youngin' like me can't ever complain about a bad season like the one we just had. But, man, I mean, you just look at the Chiefs in the 70s and the 80s, like that post-Super Bowl IV era. Those were some really down years, and it was pretty hard to get into Chiefs football. Then in the 90s, and I always credit Carl Peterson, Marty Schottenheimer, and you mentioned Derek Thomas, what they've done, and I think those 3 guys are a huge reason for how they revamped the franchise and from a culture standpoint with the fan base being the loudest stadium in the NFL now, and to what it is now with 3 Super Bowls, 5 appearances with the core group of guys we have right now. What do you make of how much the Chiefs have changed over the years?
Yeah, it's remarkable. I remember when they went from Jack Stedman to Carl Peterson, there was this shift. Like suddenly it seemed like a professional team all of a sudden. And then getting Marty and so on. And we got so close. We got Joe Montana, at the end.
Yeah.
We couldn't get over the hump at Buffalo. We'd go to Buffalo and they beat us in the frigid weather. But yeah, I mean, that turned us into a legit team for a while. Then we had a little dip, and then Patrick changes everything. Andy and Patrick changes everything. And I get it. People, we've kind of now become the new Patriots. People are sick of us. They love to hate on us. I'm like, dude, we suffered a lot of decades to get here. We've earned some of this.
What's interesting, because we're going to be having the Chiefs Zone live at Planet Comic Con, and I'll get into that with you as well, because I know you'll be there as well. So we'll talk about your appearance there and some of the work that you'll have for fans to check out. But we'll be joined by Duron Cherry and Neil Smith, and I'm very excited about that. Do you have any fond memories of watching either of those two guys over the years?
Yeah, Duron was a real favorite. I've always been a fan of safeties for some reason. I don't know. I like that position. So yeah, I've always been a big Duron fan, and I loved Neil's celebration. So what's your opinion? I've never had this clarified. Is it a home run swing or a golf swing?
That is a really good question. I think that is a home run swing.
Okay.
That's what I've seen over the years. But yeah.
Yeah, I love that celebration. They were monsters back then, man.
Yeah.
Neil in the end. Oh, it's great.
Well, I do want to touch on some of the work that you have done. And by the way, if you guys want to attend the Chiefs Zone live, or if you guys want to meet Andy, several other great creators and celebrities, I'll be at Planet Comic Con. Go to planetcomiccon.com and get your tickets there. You can't miss it. There's a yellow box that says buy tickets. That's what you need. Getting your ticket will grant you entry to the exhibit floor, the celebrity area, all the panels, including our live show. So get your tickets at planetcomiccon.com. I do want to talk about it. Oh, please, go ahead.
Really urge people to get them ahead of time.
Yes.
It saves you a big hassle when you get there.
That and arrive early.
Yeah.
I mean, it is chaos.
Yeah. Saturdays get pretty crazy.
Yes. I do want to talk about some of your work that you've done, and I want to start with Extraction. Phenomenal movie. I've not read the graphic novel before. I'd love to get my hands on that. Of course, people recognize Chris Hemsworth from the Marvel movies, doing Thor and the Avengers franchises. What was that experience like, writing that piece together and then seeing it on Netflix, essentially?
It took so long to happen that it was a long, kind of weird road. When the Russos had the initial idea about this guy saving someone from, it was originally written in South America, Ciudad del Este, this little spot that he was going into. It got relocated to India for Hollywood reasons. So they had this initial idea, and they came to my producer, who went to my publisher. Because I was the publisher's kind of crime guy, they said, hey, Andy'd be a good guy for you to work with. So we bashed out an outline together with the understanding that I would go write a graphic novel and they would go write a screenplay. But when the Russos came to me with this project, they were not the Marvel guys. They were working in TV. They were working on shows like Community, Arrested Development, and trying to get back into features. They made a couple features, but it had been a while, and they wanted to make it an action feature. And then it took so long to get made that they started getting the Marvel gigs. And by the time Extraction was finally getting it made, they were like too busy. So they just produced it and somebody else came in to direct it. And they actually got a former stuntman to direct it who did an incredible job. So between the time I signed to do the deal with the Russos to the time the movie hit Netflix was 12 years. So Hollywood is a fickle beast. You just never know.
What is that like to see your project just blossom and be available? Because, I mean, Netflix has grown so much over the years, and I understand today, I mean, there are a lot of streaming platforms, so Netflix has a lot of competition, but for the longest time, and even still today, Netflix has always been that streaming platform. So, a lot of big projects, movie projects, that is, they don't go to the big screen. A lot of people prefer it goes to a streaming service, and for yours to go to Netflix. What is that like to see that baby grow into such a big phenomenon, and not only that, be a top hit?
It was kind of a surreal time. The first one hit Netflix in April of 2020. So that is a month and a half into the pandemic, like full bore.
Yeah.
The bad news is there's not going to be any screenings anywhere. There's no press. Nobody can go out and do anything. The good news, COVID's not good news, but the silver lining is everybody was home watching Netflix.
Yeah.
So they estimated that 250 million people saw it in the first month. Because what else were you going to do? You sit at home and watch Netflix, and people liked it. And it was weird for me. I'm kind of a pessimist when it comes to my own stuff. I always assume, oh, it's not going to work out. It probably won't be any good. And people probably won't like it. So I get up like everybody else. I've seen a script, but I haven't seen the film yet. I get up like everybody else that morning. I watch it. I'm like, oh, snap. I think this thing is pretty good. And then the numbers start coming in. You're like, oh my God, it's everything we'd hoped. Like it kicks ass. Chris is great. People like it. It just, yeah, total payoff. It kind of smashed my pessimistic nature for a while, made me more hopeful.
I'm trying to remember the name of the English voice actor. Greg Chun. He was the English dub for the main character on Squid Game on Netflix. And I remember asking him at another convention, what was it like, and when did he have, the first indication that this was a big deal? And I remember he mentioned that, he was just doing a convention and he had seen Netflix promote it. And he's like, oh, yeah, I worked on that. Hopefully it'll do well, which obviously it did. And he just remembered, watching the news, the local news at one of the conventions, and they were talking about it and how big of a deal it was. Yeah. Do you remember where you were when you first got in? I know you kind of alluded to it when you first got the idea that, oh, this is a really big deal and everyone's watching this.
I think it might have been. So it hit number 1 on Netflix. And, they do these little banners. Here's the top 10.
Yeah.
When it stayed there for like 5 days, 7 days, I was like, oh, this is not, people really dig it. It's not just a little bump. I thought, yeah, people really are enjoying it. And I wrote the Russos say, wow, good job us. And they were like, yeah, it's a big hit.
That's awesome. I actually wanted to ask you about the Russo brothers because, when you hear about those two, everyone thinks of the Marvel movies. And I know they've done a lot more work than just that, but that is what a lot of people associate them with. And I know you talked about how at the time, they weren't, doing the whole Marvel thing full time, but, just seeing them do what they're doing now with Marvel, what has that been like? And what's it like to be able to say you got to work with them?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I mean, I knew they were super talented, but they did a great job with their first Captain America movie. And I thought, oh yeah. Then they got the Avengers. I was like, oh, they're gonna kick it on that. And I knew they would. They're super talented. And they're Cleveland guys, and Cleveland reminds me a lot of Kansas City. Mm-hmm. It's on a river. It's kind of a mellow Midwestern working class vibe. Good people. So yeah, we got along really well. They're good dudes.
You've also collaborated and worked with a lot of other notable names. I know Judd Winnick, who a lot of people may remember from The Real World, really early on in The Real World's inception. You've worked with Phil Hester. Kevin Smith, any comic book nerd is familiar with Kevin Smith. Just what's it been like working with so many big names alongside yours over the years?
I feel like I must have done something right in my past life because all the big names I've worked with have been really sweet guys. Like Kevin's a really good dude. Judd's a sweetheart. I really have not had an instance where I bumped into somebody who was a celeb and I walked away thinking, oof, that guy.
Yeah.
And once you work in the Kevin Smith universe, you're kind of family, you're part of the whole team. It's nice. And those fans are real fans, people who like Kevin's stuff.
You have some other graphic novels that you have written. Talk about some of the other work you have and how can people get their hands on these graphic novels if they're interested?
So I had a long career in comics as an artist. I worked on, as you mentioned, Green Arrow, Batman, a lot of stuff. And then I started writing stuff, and I wrote 2 historical fiction graphic novels. The first one you mentioned, Union Station, is set in Kansas City. It's about the massacre that happened in 1933 at Union Station. Capote in Kansas is about Truman Capote's time in Kansas while he was working on In Cold Blood. So not quite Kansas City, but still, in the state. And now I'm working for Ignition Press, writing new things. So is it okay to show props?
Yeah, absolutely. Please.
So the Extraction book, which was originally called Ciudad, has been out of print for quite a while. And Ignition Press, I just got my comps today.
Oh, look at that.
The brand new edition, the first time in color. Now it's called Extraction. And that hits in April, I believe.
Okay.
Along with my first creator-owned series that I've had out in years. It's called Bad Thoughts. That will have a first issue of it available at Planet. This cover is exclusive to Planet, like you can only get it there. So Ignition Press is really hitting Planet Comic Con in big ways, and we're going to have a lot of new stuff to show there.
Yeah, I did see an interview you did, and I apologize, I don't remember the local network that you did the interview with, but I saw that they mentioned that you started working with Ignition Press, and now you're starting to have some work out there. What's that experience been like for you?
It's great. So I've just been out of stores as a writer for a while, because when Extraction hit, I thought I'd chase Hollywood money for a few years, and that turned into like 4 years, and all I ever got out of it was a bunch of unpublished scripts and notes from producers, and it's kind of infuriating. So it's good. It's nice to be back in comics where, I'm working with great people. We really get to make the product we want to make. There's not a lot of interference. Ignition Press lets us do our thing. And it's super exciting to have stuff in stores again. I'm very hyped about it.
Before we get out of here, I just want to let people know that they can come to Planet Comic Con, meet a lot of great creators, a lot of celebrities. We'll also have the Chiefs Zone Live there. And like you mentioned early, get your tickets as soon as possible, because getting them at the door, that can be a whole complicated issue. PlanetComicCon.com. Go there, click on the yellow box that says buy tickets, and get your tickets as soon as possible. Andy, when people come to your table and if they want to check out any of the work that you have, what can they expect in terms of meeting you and other comic book writers?
I think it's a great question, because a lot of people come to cons like this and they've never been before. They don't really know what's going on. There will be certain celebrities, certain comic book artists who are superstars who will just be signing, and every signature costs something, $10, $20, whatever. There's tons of guys like me who don't charge for autographs. I'll have some comics out for not very many dollars a piece. I'll have some $10 prints that people can get if they want to have one of those signed. I'll have some more expensive artwork and things if you have a bigger budget. But you can roam Artist Alley, meet a lot of people, see a lot of cool stuff, get signatures free of charge, chat with people. It's a pretty laid back environment for people who just want to meet artists and see what's going on.
Awesome. And once again, if you guys want to meet Andy, if you guys want to meet other celebrities, other creators, artists, and also attend the Chiefs Zone Live, get your tickets, planetcomiccon.com. Andy, before you get out of here, I don't know if you follow free agency or the draft stuff, if you follow any of that closely. Do you have like a name in free agency or the draft that you really want the Chiefs to get?
I'm kind of like an Etienne. Is that how you say his name?
Oh, Travis Etienne Jr., yeah.
I was really cold on Love, and now it's looking like he won't even reach 9.
No way.
He ran so well. That guy's a stud. I don't think I could take Bane with the way he measured. I don't like, historically, those arms scare me.
You know what's interesting is Nick Wright, who did a lot of great local stuff here in Kansas City for many years, and now he's on the national level. I don't know if you followed the Super Bowl or watch what Will Campbell did for the Patriots, the rookie left tackle. Yeah. Nick Wright, because he had a really bad Super Bowl. Nick Wright said something interesting to where he struggled against edge rushers with longer arms.
Yeah.
So I know some people think that's just a measurement, and if you just play well, who cares? I think there is a little something to it. I like Ruben Bain Jr. a lot, but yeah, that is a valid concern. I do agree, and I'm really curious to see what the Chiefs do with that if he's available at 9.
I'd still a stud DN would be my top choice.
Yeah,
I wouldn't hate a receiver. I wouldn't hate Love. I don't think he'll be there. I know the safety is a stud, and I told you I love safeties, but
yeah,
I don't know about taking a safety at 9. That's tough.
Yeah.
How would you feel? So there's a tackle gaining scheme. Do you think they have a chance to add a stud right tackle to be? I mean, that would make the line really solid.
I see. We just talked about this on Monday night's podcast, especially with Juwan Taylor getting let go.
Yeah.
Francis Maui-Noah, if he somehow is available at 9, that would be a great addition to the Chiefs. Especially, here's what you've got to remember: Patrick Mahomes didn't just tear his ACL; he tore it late in the regular season. So you can give him all the help possible on that line. That would help out a lot. If they trade down and get Spencer Fano from Utah, that's not a bad move. I know it's not the most exciting move in the world, but that would not be a bad idea either. Like, the idea of a right tackle is kind of growing on me over the last few days, so I would not be opposed to that at all. That's a good point.
I'd love a trade down if they can still get somebody like that. it's tough. You hope somebody has a guy 9 that they're loving.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I've seen a couple mock drafts. I saw one today from Lance Zierlein, who is great at what he does, by the way. He was mocking the Chiefs to trade with the Jets and to trade at 15 or 16.
Okay.
And he has the Chiefs taking a left tackle. Like, they're not taking a left tackle 2 years in a row. Come on.
Right. I mean, is it a guy you think, like, it's easier to play right? It's easier to switch to right than it is to switch over to left, right?
Yeah. And I've heard some stories about players, how they struggle going from left to right or the other way around. I remember Damian McIntosh, who played for the Chiefs years ago. He opened up about that kind of thing. There are some swing tackles out there. People feel like the Chiefs have one in S.A. Pole, who did great, in the last few games. I don't know. It all depends on what the scouts see when they evaluate these guys, which obviously we're not doing, which is hard to answer. But I'm certainly not opposed to a right tackle. I would actually love to see it, in fact.
Is there a receiver you'd love there?
Carnell Tate is pretty exciting. I don't know about Jordan Tyson at 9. I know a lot of people aren't impressed with Mekhi Lemons because of, I guess, his body language at one of the press conferences. People weren't too impressed with that. I know with Rashee Rice and what he's got going on, I think the Chiefs are trying to prepare for life after Rashee Rice, and that's very understandable.
No. Then they better get Thornton signed, I think.
Yeah, I 1000% agree. I've been beating that drum since day one of the offseason.
Yeah.
What's taking so long? Like, how do you have that effective of a receiver and you just don't use them suddenly after the first 3 games?
Yeah, frustrating.
All right.
I'm
Well,
hoping they got enough new blood to mix things up a little
yeah,
on the coaching staff,
It'll be interesting. It'll be a very interesting offseason for sure. And in just a little, in exactly a week is when free agency is going to start. So we'll have a lot of questions answered very soon. Andy, thank you so much for joining us. Before we get out of here, one last question. Do you have a social media or a website if people want to connect with you and check out more of your work?
Yeah, the best place is probably Instagram. And because my name is spelled weird, ANDE, Andy Parks, you search that and you'll find me on there right away.
All right. Well, you can go visit him at Planet Comic-Con, Kansas City from March 27th through the 29th. Andy, this was a lot of fun. I appreciate you being a supporter of the content and the podcast and also giving us some of your time here. And we'll look forward to chatting in person at Planet Comic-Con.
I'd love it. Thank you, man.
That's Andy Parks joining us here on the Chiefs Zone podcast. Big thanks to him once again for being with us here on the Chiefs Zone. That'll do it for this episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast. We covered a lot here on this episode. If you missed any part of it, it will be archived very shortly on Facebook, YouTube, X, Apple, Spotify, anywhere where you can download and listen to the podcast. If you guys enjoyed this, please give it a like, subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already, and share it. Let your friends know about the Chiefs Zone podcast. I will talk to you guys on Friday for the Red Friday Q&A live chat. Once again, I'm Farzi Vasugi and appreciate you all joining me. I will talk to you all later. Take care.